Carl Jung once said that the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. Nowhere is this more true than in sexuality, because behind every desire you admit lies another desire you deny. Behind every kiss, every fantasy, every attraction, there are darker impulses you refuse to look at. And Jung believed that these sexual shadows control you more than anything else. We think of sex as simple, attraction, passion, love, but the unconscious sees it differently. To the unconscious, sex is the place where the shadow comes alive. It is where power hides beneath love, where fear hides beneath desire, where control hides beneath intimacy. That is why sexuality is never just physical. It is psychological, archetypal, and dangerous. Jung called the hidden side of our psyche the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or feel ashamed of. And because sexuality is so charged with shame, culture, and morality, much of it gets buried in the shadow. We hide our true desires. We pretend we are pure. We repress fantasies we don't want to admit. But repression doesn't make them vanish. It makes them stronger. It makes them come back in distorted, destructive ways. This is the darkest truth about sexual shadows. The more you deny them, the more they control you. Think about it. How many people have destroyed their lives because of secret sexual addictions? How many betrayals, affairs, and obsessions start with something someone tried to suppress? How many men and women chase partners, not because of love, but because of unacknowledged wounds, trauma, loneliness, rejection, the need for power? Jung would say, none of this is random. Your sexual attractions, your fantasies, even your obsessions are messages from the shadow. They are your unconscious trying to tell you something. But instead of listening, most people hide from them. They call them wrong, dirty, forbidden. And in doing so, they give the shadow its greatest weapon: secrecy. Because what is secret controls you, what is hidden shapes you, what is repressed becomes destiny. That is why sexual shadows are the most dangerous. You don't admit them, but they drive every choice you make. They pull you toward people who break you. They keep you addicted to relationships that hurt you. They make you mistake lust for love, control for passion, obsession for devotion. And because you never look at the shadow directly, you never break free. Projection and sexual shadows. Jung believed that the anima and animus, the feminine within the man and the masculine within the woman, are projected onto sexual partners. That means when you fall in love or feel consumed by attraction, you are not really seeing the person. You are seeing your shadow projected onto them. This is why desire feels so intoxicating. It is not about them. It is about you. It is about the parts of you you have buried now, reflected in another person's eyes. But this projection is dangerous because it blinds you. You think you have met your soulmate when really you've met your shadow. And when the projection collapses, as it always does, you are left with pain, betrayal, disappointment. That is the cycle of sexual shadows. They pull you in with fantasies, then break you with reality. And unless you integrate them, unless you face the shadow, they will keep repeating the forbidden desires. The truth Jung pointed to is that every human being carries forbidden desires. Aggression mixed with passion, the need to dominate or submit, the thrill of betrayal, the hunger for something dark, dangerous, or taboo. Most people pretend they don't. They wear the mask of morality, of innocence, of purity. But in the unconscious, these desires never die. They wait. They seep into dreams, into fantasies, into sudden temptations. And when you least expect it, they take over. That's why so many people say, I don't know why I did it. They don't realize it was their shadow speaking. Jung would tell you what you refuse to face in yourself, you will encounter in the world. If you repress your aggression, you will be attracted to those who hurt you. If you repress your lust, you will become obsessed with others who embody it. If you deny your need for power, you will fall into relationships where control destroys you. The shadow always finds a way, especially in sexuality. Why it hurts so much? This is why sexual betrayals cut deeper than anything else. Because sex is not just physical, it is archetypal. When someone cheats, manipulates, or withholds sexually, they are not just breaking a bond of love. They are ripping open the unconscious. They are awakening the shadow. And the shadow always brings pain. Jung wrote that we are possessed by what we repress. If you repress your sexual shadows, you will be possessed by them. They will show up as addictions, obsessions, fantasies you can't escape, partners you can't quit. And the more you fight them, the tighter they grip you. The beginning of truth. This is the darkest truth Jung wanted you to see. You are not as innocent as you think. The people you blame, the partners you resent, the lovers who broke you. They were mirrors of your own shadow. They showed you what you deny in yourself. And until you face that, you will remain controlled. Sexual shadows are not here to shame you. They are here to awaken you. But most people never awaken. They get trapped in cycles of lust, love, betrayal, and regret. They live their whole lives in denial, never realizing that the enemy was inside them all along. You were not supposed to hear this truth until you were ready. Because once you see your sexual shadow, you can never go back. Jung taught that what we repress doesn't disappear, it comes back. And nowhere is this more obvious than in sexuality. Because every time you bury a desire, every time you pretend you are above it, every time you run from your own darkness, it doesn't die. It waits. It waits for the right moment to show up again in your relationships, your attractions, your choices. That's why so many people say the same thing about their love life. Why do I always attract the same type of partner? Or why do I keep making the same mistake? The answer isn't chance. It's shadow. The sexual shadow keeps pulling you back into the same cycle until you face it. The cycle of shadows. The cycle usually looks like this. Attraction to the shadow. You feel a magnetic pull to someone. They excite you, overwhelm you, make you feel alive. You call it chemistry, but Jung would call it projection. You are not attracted to them. You are attracted to the shadow inside you that they embody. Illusion of love. At first, the shadow feels like love. You believe you found something rare, something eternal. You idealize them. You surrender yourself. You don't see their flaws. You see your unconscious longings reflected in them. The shadow emerges. Slowly, the darker side comes out. Control, jealousy, manipulation, betrayal. But instead of running, you stay. Why? Because you are not really fighting them. You are fighting your own shadow. Collapse and pain. Eventually, the illusion breaks. You realize they were not who you imagined. The relationship ends in heartbreak, betrayal, or bitterness. And yet a few months later, the cycle begins again with someone new but strangely familiar. This is the pattern Jung warned about. What you repress returns again and again until you make it conscious. Real-life patterns of sexual shadows. So how do these shadows actually show up? Let's look at some of the most common patterns. 1. Desire disguised as love. Many people mistake lust for love. They confuse intensity with intimacy. They meet someone who awakens hidden desires in them and immediately believe they are in love. But what they are really experiencing is the sexual shadow taking control. The obsession feels divine, but it is just projection. And when the projection fades, so does the love. 2. The addiction to betrayal. Some people are drawn again and again to partners who cheat, lie, or betray them. Consciously they hate it, but unconsciously they are replaying a deeper wound. Abandonment, rejection, childhood pain. The shadow pulls them toward betrayal because it reflects the betrayal inside them. They have never healed. 3. Power and submission. Another pattern is the dance of dominance and submission. A man may find himself attracted to women who control him, belittle him, or silence him. A woman may find herself drawn to men who use her, hurt her, or demand too much. On the surface, it looks irrational, but to the shadow, it makes perfect sense. The unconscious seeks balance. What you repress, you seek outside yourself. For fantasy as escape. Sexual shadows also appear in fantasy. People repress desires in daily life, but act them out in imagination, in secret, in private addictions. They believe fantasy is harmless. But Jung would say fantasy is not harmless. It is the shadow speaking, and when ignored, it spills into reality in destructive ways. 5. Repeating the past. Perhaps the most painful shadow pattern is repeating what once broke you. A woman raised by a controlling father finds herself repeatedly with controlling men. A man abandoned by his mother finds himself obsessed with unavailable women. These are not coincidences. They are the unconscious pulling you back to the wound, hoping you will finally face it. Why we can't break the cycle? If these patterns are so destructive, why do people stay trapped in them? Jung's answer: because they refuse to face the shadow directly. It is easier to blame your partner than to admit you are projecting. It is easier to say all men are toxic or all women are manipulative than to look in the mirror and say, I am attracting my own shadow. But until you do, nothing changes. The shadow will keep choosing for you. You will keep falling for the same type, living the same heartbreak, repeating the same story. And each time, you will believe this time is different. It isn't. It's the same shadow in a different face. The archetypal trap. Jung believes sexual shadows are tied to archetypes older than culture itself. The temptress, the seducer, the forbidden lover, the betrayer. These figures live in the collective unconscious. They are myths that repeat in every culture, every generation, every love story. When you fall under the grip of the shadow, you are not just living your own life. You are reenacting an ancient story. That's why it feels so powerful. That's why it feels bigger than you. Because in a way, it is. But Jung's warning is clear. Unless you recognize the archetype, you will be possessed by it. You will keep playing the same role over and over without ever realizing you are just another actor in an ancient drama. The cost of denial. Every time you deny your sexual shadow, the cost grows. It appears as addiction, as obsession, as betrayal, as heartbreak. It steals your peace. It consumes your energy. It makes you mistake pain for passion and trauma for love. And yet most people would rather stay in denial because the shadow is terrifying. To admit your forbidden desires, your darker impulses, your hidden fantasies, it feels like death. But Jung would tell you that this death is necessary. It is the death of illusion. And only through that death can you be reborn whole. The door to transformation. Here is the hope Jung leaves us with. Every shadow hides potential. Sexual shadows, as dark as they may seem, are not here to destroy you. They are here to wake you up. They are showing you the parts of yourself you need to integrate, the wounds you need to heal, the illusions you need to break. The cycle repeats not to punish you, but to prepare you. Each heartbreak, each betrayal, each obsession is the unconscious saying, look here. Face this. Learn from this. And the moment you do, truly do, the cycle breaks. Jung believed that everything we repress eventually rules us. And nowhere is this more dangerous than in sexuality because the desires you bury do not vanish. They become shadows. And those shadows find ways to control your life, your choices, your relationships. This is the darkest truth about sexual shadows. They are not external enemies. They are parts of yourself. The partners who hurt you, the fantasies that consume you, the obsessions that break you. These are not accidents. They are mirrors, reflections of the shadow you have not yet faced. The truth Jung wanted you to see. Here is the truth. Jung wanted you to see. Your sexual shadow is not here to destroy you. It is here to complete you. The shadow contains everything you deny. Your aggression, your hunger, your capacity for betrayal, your need for power, your forbidden fantasies. And as long as you reject them, they control you from the dark. But the moment you face them, name them, and integrate them, they lose their grip. That is individuation. The process of becoming whole. What integration looks like. Integration does not mean acting out every dark impulse. It does not mean giving in to every fantasy. It means acknowledging that those impulses exist inside you and learning what they mean. If you are drawn to betrayal, ask yourself, where did betrayal shape me? Why do I replay this pattern? What wound am I avoiding? If you are consumed by lust, ask yourself, what am I starving for? Is this about sex or about the need to feel seen, alive, desired? If you are obsessed with control, Ask, what part of me feels powerless? Why do I need domination or submission to feel whole? This is what Jung meant by making the unconscious conscious. You stop running from your shadows and instead bring them into the light. The pain of seeing clearly. But here's the cost. Once you see your shadow, you cannot unsee it. The illusions that once blinded you no longer work. You can't call obsession love. You can't mistake betrayal for fate. You can't hide behind the excuse that it just happened. You begin to realize that your sexual shadows were not curses. They were choices. Unconscious choices? Yes, but choices nonetheless. And that realization hurts because it forces you to admit responsibility. But it is in this pain that liberation begins. How to break free. Jung would say the only way to break free from sexual shadows is through conscious confrontation. Name the shadow. Write down the patterns that repeat in your love life. What types of partners pull you in? What fantasies control you? Naming them takes away half their power. Find the wound beneath. Every shadow grows from a wound. If you are obsessed with control, the wound may be powerlessness. If you crave betrayal, the wound may be abandonment. If you are addicted to lust, the wound may be loneliness. Look deeper. Own it without shame. This is the hardest step. Instead of blaming others, own your shadow. Admit that the darkest desires are part of you. Don't act them out blindly, but don't deny them either. They belong to you. Transform the energy. Sexual energy is raw life energy. When unconscious, it destroys. When integrated, it creates. Transform obsession into passion. Transform lust into intimacy. Transform control into strength. This is how the shadow becomes light, the freedom on the other side. Once you integrate your sexual shadows, you stop being controlled by them. You stop chasing the same destructive partners. You stop mistaking pain for passion. You stop projecting your animus onto others. Instead, you see clearly. You see people for who they are, not who your shadow imagines them to be. You choose love instead of addiction. You choose intimacy instead of control. You choose freedom instead of chains. And that freedom is what Jung called individuation, the birth of the whole self. Jung's final warning, but Jung also gave a warning. If you refuse to face your sexual shadow, it will ruin you. It will destroy your relationships, trap you in cycles of betrayal, leave you broken and bitter. The unconscious does not forgive ignorance. It will keep sending the same lesson louder each time until you finally listen. You have a choice. You can ignore this truth. Keep running. Keep repeating the same patterns. Keep calling pain love. Or you can stop. You can face your sexual shadow. Integrate it. And finally, step into freedom. The call to you. If you are still here, it means this message was meant for you. It means you are ready. You didn't find this video by accident. It found you. Your unconscious led you here because it is time. So ask yourself now, what are the sexual shadows that control me? What patterns keep repeating in my life? What am I most afraid to admit about my desires? Because the answer to those questions is the key to your freedom. Carl Jung believed that nothing changes until you make the unconscious conscious. And today, you've begun. You've looked into the darkest truth about sexual shadows. You've seen what most people spend their whole lives denying. The question is, will you act on it? If this video spoke to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and consider a super thanks to support more Jung psychology and shadow work content. Because remember, your sexual shadow is not here to destroy you. It is here to set you free if you dare to face it.